My heart thumps so loudly I'm certain David can hear it from across the room, a traitor giving away my pretense of sleep. I lie in our king-sized bed in our cozy Portland home, the moonlight slicing through the curtains, casting shadows that dance across the walls like silent warnings. My name is Sarah Mitchell, a marketing manager who thought her biggest worry was landing a client account, until tonight, when I glimpse my husband of 6 years in a way that shatters everything I believed about him. Through barely open eyes, I watch David, the man who brings me coffee every morning and kisses my forehead before work, pry up the floorboards near our bedroom window with a stranger's precision. What is he hiding under our floor? The question coils in my gut, cold and sharp, promising answers I might not survive knowing. The air feels heavy, thick with the scent of lavender from the diffuser on our nightstand, but it does nothing to calm me. My breathing stays slow, deliberate, as I mimic the deep sleep I've fallen into for weeks, sleep I now suspect wasn't natural. David moves silently, his hands steady as he lifts each board, revealing a metal box the size of a shoebox. My blood chills as he opens it with care, like it's sacred. In the dim hallway light, I see papers, photographs, and multiple passports stacked inside. Passports. Plural. My mind screams to leap up, to demand answers, but fear roots me to the bed. I've tasted the bitter edge in my chamomile tea for weeks, ignored the way my belongings seemed to shift overnight, dismissed the grogginess that clung to me each morning. Now, watching David's calculated movements, I know the truth. He's been drugging me. This box, these secrets, it's worse than I imagined. 3 hours ago, I sat at our kitchen table, staring at the blue ceramic mug David placed before me, steam curling up like a warning. Our nightly ritual at 9, tea with a teaspoon of honey, felt comforting once, a symbol of his care. Tonight, it felt like a trap. "Long day at the office?" David asked, settling across from me, his brown eyes warm, familiar, the same eyes I fell in love with on our wedding day 8 years ago. "Yeah, the Morrison account's a nightmare," I said, gripping the mug, its warmth burning my palms. The tea smelled floral, soothing, but that bitter undertone lingered, a chemical tang I couldn't ignore anymore. "You should drink up, get some rest," he urged, his voice carrying a hint of something. Eagerness? I lifted the mug, pretending to sip, watching his gaze sharpen. When I didn't swallow, a flicker of a frown crossed his face. "Something wrong with the tea?" he asked, too casual. "No, just hot," I lied, letting a drop touch my tongue, confirming the bitter taste. My hands trembled slightly. David stood. "I'm hitting the bathroom. Finish your tea." The second he left, I bolted to the sink, pouring the tea down the drain, my pulse racing like a trapped animal's. I refilled the mug with water and a dab of honey, masking my deception. His footsteps echoed back, and I held up the empty mug. "All done," I said, forcing a smile. "Good girl," he replied, his tone sending a shiver down my spine. He suggested bed, and I nodded, knowing tonight I'd fight the sleep he expected. I brushed my teeth, changed into pajamas, and left the bedroom door ajar to hear his movements. Around 10:30, the TV downstairs clicked off, and David's steps climbed the stairs. I closed my eyes, breathing deeply, mimicking sleep. He stood in the doorway, whispering, "Sarah, Sarah, you awake?" I stayed still, heart pounding, as he called louder, testing me. When I didn't stir, he retreated downstairs to his office. For an hour I lay frozen, listening to muffled phone calls, his voice sharper, unfamiliar, sometimes slipping into an accent I didn't recognize. My thoughts spiraled. Who was this man? Around midnight he returned, pausing outside our door. I kept my breathing steady, though my chest felt ready to burst. Then, instead of joining me in bed, he knelt by the window, scraping wood against wood. I risked a glance, my worst fears confirmed. David was uncovering his secrets. The box revealed photographs, not of me but of other women, their faces hauntingly similar to mine. He studied a passport, comparing it to his phone's screen, his face lit by the flashlight's glow. His smile, cold, calculating, belonged to a stranger, not the man I married. As he replaced the floorboards, one thought consumed me. Who is David, and what does he want with me? This wasn't the first time I'd questioned our life together, but it was the moment everything crystallized into terror. 3 weeks earlier, I was just Sarah Mitchell, juggling deadlines at my marketing firm, convinced my biggest headache was the Morrison account. Our home on Maple Street smelled of David's spaghetti sauce that Tuesday night, a comforting aroma that now feels like a cruel facade. He'd already set the kettle boiling when I walked in, exhausted from meetings that dragged on endlessly. "How was your day, sweetheart?" he asked, stirring the pot with one hand, reaching for my favorite mug with the other. Even after 6 years, he never forgot the little rituals that made me feel cherished. "Exhausting," I replied, dropping my purse on the counter. The Morrison folks want a complete overhaul 3 weeks before launch. Emma and I were buried in strategy sessions all afternoon. David nodded, sympathetically filling the kettle. "That sounds rough. Good thing your tea's coming up to help you unwind." I smiled faintly, remembering how he'd learned about my love for chamomile when we started dating, turning it into our nightly tradition. We ate dinner together, the pasta rich and familiar, then settled on the couch for a movie, his arm draped around me like always. Halfway through, a wave of drowsiness hit me hard, my eyelids heavy as lead. "I think I need to head to bed," I mumbled, words slurring slightly. "Of course, honey. Long day," David said, helping me up. "I'll join you soon." I barely recall climbing the stairs. Morning came in a blur, my alarm piercing the fog. Groggy, I rubbed my eyes, noticing David already dressed beside me. Unusual, since he typically slept in. "What time did you come to bed?" I asked. "Around 11, he said casually. "You were out cold." Something nagged at me. My phone was on the nightstand, but I'd sworn I'd left it on the dresser. My laptop, usually open on the desk, was shut. "David, did you move my stuff last night?" I called down. "What stuff?" "My phone and laptop, they're not where I left them." "You were tired, Sarah. Probably just forgot." Maybe, but doubt lingered. Over the next few days, the pattern persisted. Tea at night, blackout sleep, and morning disarray. My purse shifted positions, work papers reshuffled, once my laptop warm as if recently used despite being powered off. "I think I'm losing my mind," I confessed to Emma over lunch at our favorite cafe near the office, poking at my salad. Her dark eyes filled with concern. "What do you mean?" "Someone's going through my things while I sleep, but it's just David and me." She frowned. "That doesn't sound crazy. What things?" "Laptop, purse, documents, and I've been sleeping like the dead, not normal for me." "When did it start?" "About 3 weeks ago, around the Morrison project." "Any changes? Meds? Routine?" I shook my head, then paused. "David's tea, but that's nothing new." Something crossed her face. "Maybe watch how you feel after drinking it, rule out allergies." That night I did. The tea had that subtle bitterness I'd overlooked. Within 30 minutes, exhaustion pulled at me. But around 2 a.m., I stirred briefly, hearing David's voice downstairs, sharp, serious, unlike him. Morning came, and I asked, "Were you on the phone last night?" He looked surprised. "No, why?" "I heard talking." "Must have been dreaming, sweetheart. I came to bed right after you." But I knew better. For the first time, I wondered if he was lying. The suspicion gnawed at me, twisting my stomach during another lunch with Emma. "I need proof," I said, pushing my sandwich aside. "Can't live wondering if I'm paranoid." She leaned in. "What are you thinking?" "Record myself sleeping, film the bedroom after tea." She paused. "Smart. If nothing, it's stress. If something, evidence." That evening, I angled my phone on the dresser, plugged in, recording before David brought the mug. "Here you go, honey," he said. "Extra honey? You look beat." I smiled, sipping the bitter brew, drowsiness hitting fast. "So tired," I murmured. "Sleep well," he said, kissing my forehead. Lights out, and I faded. Morning, David gone for an early meeting. Hands shaking, I stopped the recording, 8 hours captured. Fast forwarding, I saw myself still, then David at midnight, standing over me, shaking my shoulder, calling my name. No response, and he smiled. That cold curve. He left, returned with my purse, photographing my license, noting credit cards, scanning my badge. Then my laptop. He knew the password, spent an hour copying files, emails, banking. Helpless, I watched on screen as he invaded my life. Around 3 a.m., a phone call. "Timeline's good. Everything in 2 weeks, she suspects nothing. Medication's perfect. This one's different, more resources than the others." The others? My heart sank. He replaced everything, kissed my sleeping form, slid into bed. Staring at the screen, my world crumbled. David, my David, was stealing my life while drugging me senseless. Why? Credit cards he already accessed? Who were the others? Police seemed premature. What crime, exactly? Shared marriage meant shared access. No, I needed more. I met Emma for coffee, showed the footage. Her face paled. This is criminal, Sarah, drugging, theft. But why my info? She thought. Maybe David's not who you think. Her words echoed as I drove home, the rain pattering on my windshield like accusations. That night, the tea felt heavier in my hands, but I had to play along, piecing together the nightmare unfolding under my roof. Emma didn't waste any time after seeing that recording. She called in sick the next day and dove headfirst into investigating David's background, her determination a lifeline in my swirling chaos. By afternoon, her voice on the phone was shaky, urging me to meet somewhere private, away from the house that now felt like a prison. I told David I was grocery shopping and drove to Riverside Park, the Willet River rushing below like my racing thoughts. Emma sat on a bench, clutching a thick folder, her face pale against the overcast sky. "Sarah, sit down," she said, her words heavy with dread. "What I'm about to tell you is going to be hard." My legs buckled as I sat, the wooden slats cold through my jeans. "What did you find?" She opened the folder, pulling out printouts with methodical care. I started with basics: his job, social security, college records, things that should check out after 6 years of marriage. The first page was from Cascade Software Solutions' website, where David claimed to be a developer. I called them, asked for David Mitchell in development. They've never had anyone by that name. Confusion hit me like a wave. Impossible. He goes to work daily, gets paychecks, talks about coworkers. "I know it's tough, but listen," Emma said gently. A background check showed his social security didn't match his name. Social media profiles? All created 7 years ago, not updated, created. 7 years, I whispered. We met 8 years ago. Exactly. He built his online identity a year before meeting you. My hands shook as I scanned the evidence. We have a marriage certificate, filed taxes, how? Emma showed DMV records. His license issued 7 years ago as a replacement, no prior history in Oregon or neighboring states. It's like he didn't exist before then. Breathing grew hard, the river's roar drowning my thoughts. "Emma, what does this mean? The man you married has a false identity since before you. And from that phone call, you're not his first victim." Victim, the word punched me. Victim of what? She hesitated, then revealed research on marriage fraud and identity theft. Organized groups target successful women, marry them, steal identities and assets, then vanish. The FBI labels them romance scammers, but they're sophisticated predators. Patterns matched. False identities, built trust over years, gathered info covertly. The sleeping pills make it easy. Access everything without you knowing. Banks, SSN, work creds. David's call mentioned the others and a timeline. "You think he's done this before? Very possible. And Sarah, you might be in danger." We watched the water, silence thick as I processed my marriage a lie, David a ghost. What now? Police. This is too big for us. What if they don't believe me? Paranoid wife? "You have proof, recording, research. We need them before it's too late." Too late for what? Her grim look said it. These men don't leave witnesses. That evening, Emma parked blocks away, trekking through woods to watch our bedroom window. Our signal, flash my lamp 3 times for danger. Detective James Parker, contacted by Emma, was skeptical but stationed a patrol nearby. "Need concrete evidence for arrest," he said. "But if he's planning something, tonight could provide it." I faked normalcy through dinner, David's cheer unnerving as he hummed while cooking. "You seem happy," I noted, thinking about the future. "Things will change soon." Chills ran down me. At 9, tea arrived. I faked sips, pooling liquid in my cheeks, swallowing minimally. The bitterness hit, drowsiness tugged, but I fought it, pinching my skin. Around 11:30, David's steps creaked upstairs. He tested me, calling my name, lifting my eyelid. Satisfied, he went to the guest room, dragging something heavy. Returning, he pried floorboards by the window, opening the box. Cash stacks emerged, thousands, then passports with his photo, different names. Photographs of women like me, candid shots, leaving work, entering cars. A clipping, local woman missing, Jennifer Walsh from Seattle, vanished 2 years ago, assets stripped. David called in that accent, on schedule, accounts ready, flight Thursday, no loose ends, learned from Seattle. Seattle Jennifer. He mentioned Portland next, a new identity. Airline tickets, one-way international, Thursday. Then a vial and syringe. "Sorry, Sarah," he whispered. "You've served your purpose. Thursday, unfortunate accident." Terror paralyzed me as he repacked. Once he slept, I texted Emma, "Call Parker now. Poison, kill Thursday." Sleep evaded me, every shift in bed a potential threat. Morning, I played wife while he kissed goodbye. Working late, don't wait up. His car gone, Emma and Parker arrived. Show me, Parker said. Upstairs, he uncovered the box. Cash, passports, victim files, including mine. Timelines detailed trust building to final cleanup Thursday. We catch him in the act, Parker decided. Confront tonight, wired, officers ready. The day dragged, nerves frayed. Microphones hidden in my clothes, vans monitoring. David home at 8 with Thai takeout. Nice dinner, just us. Food tasteless, his watch checks ominous. Finally, David, I know about the pills. His fork paused, eyes flashing danger. Don't know what you mean. Bitter tea, deep sleeps, you're drugging me. Stress, Sarah, see a doctor. I have proof, recorded you searching my things. His mask shattered, voice hardening, accent slipping. You recorded me? Know about passports, Jennifer, others, planning my murder Thursday. He stood, fists clenched. No idea what you're dealing with. Tell me who you are, he laughed coldly. I'm good at taking everything, money, identity, life, then gone. How many killed? Enough, you were last, but now improvise. Reaching into his pocket, Parker's voice boomed. David Mitchell, or whoever, this is Portland PD, house surrounded, hands up. David froze mid-step, his hand still buried in his pocket, eyes darting around the dining room like a cornered animal searching for an exit in the familiar space we'd shared meals and laughter for years. The takeout containers sat cooling on the table, the spicy aroma of pad thai now turning my stomach as tension thickened the air. Confusion twisted his features, that cold smile vanishing as he realized the voice wasn't a trick. Detective Parker's command echoed from hidden speakers, authoritative and unyielding. You set me up, David hissed, turning his glare on me, hatred burning in eyes that once held pretend love. His accent fully emerged now, thick and Eastern European, stripping away the last remnants of the American husband I'd known. I protected myself, I said, my voice steadier than I felt, adrenaline surging through me like electricity. Something you never gave Jennifer Walsh or the others a chance to do. The front door exploded inward with a crash that rattled the windows, and Detective Parker stormed in, flanked by 3 officers, their guns drawn and trained on David, badges glinting under the chandelier light. Hands up now, Parker barked, his face set in grim determination. David slowly raised his arms, but I saw the calculation in his posture, muscles coiling like a spring. You have nothing on me, he said calmly, voice laced with defiance. I'm Sarah's husband. We were just talking. We have everything, Parker countered, stepping closer without lowering his weapon. Fake passports, stolen identities, plans to murder your wife, and thanks to the wire, we heard your confession to multiple killings. That's when David lunged toward me but the back door, his movements swift and desperate, knocking over a chair that clattered to the floor. Officer Martinez was ready, blocking the path with a solid stance, while Parker tackled David from behind before he could pivot to the stairs. They crashed to the ground in a tangle of limbs, David shouting curses in a language I didn't recognize, struggling like a man fighting for his freedom and his secrets. Let me go. You don't understand what you're dealing with, he snarled as they wrenched his arms behind him, cuffs clicking shut with a finality that made my knees weak. In his pocket, they found a small knife, its blade glinting ominously, perhaps his improvisation tool. As they hauled him up, he twisted to face me one last time, spittle flying with his words. This isn't over, Sarah. People like me have friends, resources. You'll never be safe. His threat hung in the air, chilling me deeper than the night air rushing through the open door, but Parker's firm grip on his shoulder cut him off. Yes, she will, the detective said. Because criminals like you always slip up, thinking you're untouchable, but you're not, you're caught. The house swarmed with more officers then, lights flashing outside as neighbors' curtains twitched in curiosity. Emma burst in from the monitoring van, wrapping me in a hug that anchored me amid the chaos, her familiar perfume a reminder of safety. You did it, she whispered, her voice trembling with relief. It's over. But it wasn't quite, not yet. Hours blurred into interviews in our living room, now a makeshift command center with evidence bags spread across the coffee table. I recounted everything, the bitter tea, the recordings, the box's horrors, my voice hoarse but resolute. Parker nodded, piecing together the puzzle with notes from the FBI database they'd accessed on site. His real name's Victor Petro, he revealed, showing me a wanted poster on his tablet. Wanted in connection with at least 6 cases. Women targeted, married, drained, then gone. You saved yourself, Sarah, and helped us nail a monster. As they led Victor away in handcuffs, his eyes locked on mine with a promise of vengeance, but I held his gaze, drawing strength from the officers around me. The metal box yielded more horrors under forensic lights. Detailed dossiers on each woman, including autopsy reports linked to unsolved cases. Jennifer Walsh's file showed poison traces matching the vial. Lisa Chen's bank transfers routed to offshore accounts. Maria Rodriguez's home staged as a voluntary disappearance. My own folder was thickest, photos from our dating days, forged documents ready to liquidate my assets. Victor had planned to frame my accident as a fall down the stairs, insurance payout funneled to his new life. The realization hit like a fresh wave of nausea, but anger burned brighter now, fueling my resolve. By dawn, the house felt empty, echoes of the night's drama lingering in scuffed floors and overturned furniture. Emma stayed, brewing coffee, real, untainted, as we waited for the all-clear. Parker promised protection, assigning a detail until Victor was processed. The trial will be tough, he warned, but your evidence is ironclad. I nodded, exhaustion settling in, but a spark of something new flickered. Not just survival, but the beginning of justice. As the sun rose over Portland's misty skyline, casting golden light through windows that once framed our false happiness, I wondered how many other women he'd silenced. No more, I vowed silently. His reign ended here in the home he'd infiltrated, betrayed by the wife he underestimated. The following weeks were a whirlwind of statements and safeguards. Victor's network unraveled under FBI scrutiny. Accomplices in Eastern Europe, laundered funds traced to shell companies. I learned he'd targeted me at a marketing conference 8 years ago, drawn to my rising career and isolated family ties. The others were 5 confirmed victims, their families finally getting closure through my recordings and the box's contents. Therapy sessions started soon after, unpacking the layers of betrayal, but each revelation strengthened me, turning fear into purpose. As the investigation deepened in those frantic weeks following the arrest, the full extent of Victor's deception unraveled like a thread pulled from a carefully woven tapestry, revealing a pattern of horror that stretched back over a decade. Emma's initial research, which had been our lifeline before the confrontation, now merged with the FBI's vast resources, painting a picture of a man who had lived multiple lives, each one built on the ruins of a woman's trust. It started with what Emma had dug up that day she called in sick, her voice trembling over the phone as she insisted on the park meeting. I'd driven there in a daze, the river's current mirroring my turbulent thoughts, and sat beside her on that bench, the folder in her lap heavy with truths I wasn't ready for. But ready or not, she laid it out, piece by damning piece, her findings the first cracks in the facade that the authorities would later shatter completely. Emma had begun with the obvious, his employment at Cascade Software. But the company's denial was just the tip. She ran his social security through online databases, finding mismatches that screamed fraud. His digital footprint? A ghost, created 7 years prior, profiles barren of any history before that. The DMV check, courtesy of her cousin, showed a license fabricated as a replacement, with no trace in other states. "Sarah, he's not David Mitchell," she'd said, her words slicing through me. "His identity was invented right before he targeted you." But the FBI took it further after the arrest, fingerprinting Victor and running them through international databases. That's when his real name surfaced. Victor Petro, born in Ukraine, a low-level operative in organized crime rings before fleeing to the US under a stolen visa 15 years ago. He'd honed his skills in Europe, preying on vulnerable women in short cons, but evolved into something more sinister stateside. Long-term marriages designed for maximum extraction. The dark past Emma had hinted at exploded into view with the FBI's files. Victor wasn't just a scammer. He was a predator with a trail of destroyed lives. Jennifer Walsh was the most recent before me, a Seattle marketer whose disappearance 2 years earlier matched Victor's MO to a chilling degree. Drugged nights, siphoned accounts, a staged vanishing. Her body, found in a remote lake, showed traces of the same poison in that vial, slow-acting, mimicking a heart attack. But there were more. Lisa Chen in San Francisco 3 years back, a tech executive whose suicide left her family bankrupt, Victor vanishing with forged documents in her name. Maria Rodriguez in Phoenix 4 years ago, reported missing after a vacation, her home gutted, assets funneled to offshore havens. Amanda Foster in Denver 5 years prior, an accidental overdose, her identity sold on the dark web for further fraud. And 2 others in smaller cities. Their cases cold until Victor's box provided the links. Photos, timelines, even mementos like lockets or rings tucked away as trophies. What Emma uncovered about the romance scam networks was amplified by federal agents who linked Victor to a loose syndicate based in Eastern Europe. They trained men like him in charm, patience, and digital forgery, targeting professional women with stable lives but few close ties, women like me whose independence made us easier to isolate. He'd scout at conferences, build romances slowly, marry quickly, then begin the harvest. Passwords gleaned from helpful gestures, accounts jointed under false pretenses, work access exploited for corporate theft. The sleeping pills, sedatives sourced from black market pharmacies, ensured uninterrupted nights for his work. In my case, the Morrison account gave him insider data worth thousands in stock manipulations, a bonus to the personal haul. The FBI estimated he'd amassed over $1 million from his victims, laundered through crypto and shell companies, with accomplices handling the digital trails. As agents combed our home, finding hidden bugs in my office and trackers on my car, details Emma's research hadn't touched, I felt layers of violation peel back. Victor had monitored my every move, even befriending Emma casually to gauge if I confided in her. One new revelation gutted me. He'd fathered a child with Maria Rodriguez, abandoning her pregnant before her disappearance, the kid now in foster care, unaware. The philosophical weight hit hard. How had I missed the signs? The gentle touches, the perfect routines, all calculated. But Emma reminded me, during late-night talks as I crashed on her couch for safety, that predators like him thrived on our humanity, our desire to trust. The unmasking wasn't just about his name or crimes. It exposed the fragility of identity, how easily a life could be co-opted, mirrored, erased. By the time charges piled up, identity theft, fraud, conspiracy to murder, the media dubbed him the husband phantom. But to me, he was the thief of years I'd never reclaim. Yet, in that exposure, I found a sliver of power. My story, combined with Emma's digs and the box's evidence, would seal his fate. As preliminary hearings loomed, I steeled myself, knowing the trial would force me to relive it all, but also to stand as the one who unmasked him. With Victor behind bars, the machinery of justice ground into motion. But planning the trap that led to his capture had been a tense orchestration of strategy and nerve. One that tested every ounce of my resolve in the days leading up to that fateful confrontation. It all built from the night I texted Emma after witnessing the box's horrors. My fingers fumbling in the dark while Victor slept beside me, his breathing a rhythmic reminder of the danger inches away. Emma had alerted Detective Parker immediately, and by morning, they were at my door, their presence a shield against the isolation that had nearly consumed me. Parker, a seasoned investigator with a no-nonsense demeanor and lines etched from years of grim cases, wasted no time diving into the evidence, his team swarming the house like guardians reclaiming territory from a thief. We gathered in the kitchen, the same table where Victor had served me tainted tea, now covered in printouts and laptops. Emma recapped her research, the fabricated job, the ghost identity. While I played the recordings, Victor's whispered phone calls and rifling hands exposed in pixelated clarity. Parker's eyes narrowed at the footage of the box, and when he pried it open himself, the cash, passports, and victim files spilled out like confessions from a buried grave. "Jesus," he muttered, counting the bills, over $20,000 before examining the dossiers. Jennifer's clipping, Lisa's forged transfers, Maria's timeline, all linked by Victor's meticulous notes. My file was there too, a blueprint of betrayal, copied documents, surveillance photos, even a list of my allergies to tailor the accident. The vial's label suggested a potent neurotoxin, undetectable in standard autopsies, sourced from underground suppliers Parker recognized from prior cases. "This isn't amateur hour," Parker said, his voice gravelly with experience. "Petro's connected, likely to international rings. We've seen this pattern. Marry, mine, murder, move on." He outlined the plan then, a trap to elicit a confession, ensuring charges stuck beyond just possession of evidence. I'd confront Victor that evening, wired for audio, with officers positioned in vans and nearby homes, borrowed from neighbors under pretense of a neighborhood watch drill. Emma would monitor from a command vehicle down the street, her tech-savvy input crucial for real-time adjustments. "You'll steer the conversation to the drugs, the box, the plans," Parker instructed, taping a tiny mic under my collar, its cool metal a talisman against fear. "Get him talking. Admissions are gold. If he threatens, we move in." I nodded, throat dry, but Emma's hand on mine steadied me. "You're not alone," she whispered. "We've got your back." The afternoon blurred into preparations, safe words rehearsed. I need some air for immediate extraction, escape routes mapped in our home's layout, even a decoy tea mug prepped in case Victor insisted on the ritual. Parker shared more on Victor's background, intel from FBI liaisons, his Ukrainian roots, the crime family ties that funded his operations, how he'd evaded capture by rotating cities every few years. New details emerged: encrypted laptop hidden in our attic, cracked by text to reveal communications with handlers overseas, discussing asset liquidation timelines. One message referenced a Portland target post me, a young executive named Elena Vargas, her profile mirroring mine, successful, single, dark-haired. The thought fueled my anger. This trap wasn't just for me, but to halt his cycle. As evening approached, nerves coiled tight. I paced the living room, replaying scenarios. What if Victor sensed the setup? What if he skipped dinner, went straight for the kill? Emma stayed close, brewing herbal infusions, untouched by him, to calm us, her friendship at anchor in the storm. "Remember why we're doing this," she said. "For Jennifer, Lisa, all of them, and for the women he won't reach." Parker's team ran final checks. Audio feeds clear, perimeter secure, a SWAT unit on standby 2 blocks away. By 7:30 they melted into shadows, leaving me alone in the house that felt both sanctuary and snare. Victor arrived at 8, takeout bags in hand, his cheer a mask that now cracked at the edges under my scrutiny. We ate in strained silence, the pad thai's flavors muted by anticipation, his frequent watch glances like ticks of a bomb. Heart-hammering, I initiated. "David, I need to ask something." He paused, fork midway. "Of course, sweetheart." "I know about the sleeping pills." The shift was instantaneous. His eyes darkened, the loving facade crumbling. But as planned, I pressed on, drawing out the confession that would seal his fate, the wire capturing every damning word. The trap sprung flawlessly when he reached for his pocket, Parker's voice booming through speakers, officers bursting in. In the aftermath, as Victor was cuffed and dragged away, spitting threats, I felt the weight lift slightly. Planning it had been terrifying, but executing it, that was the turning point, where victim became victor in my own story. The confrontation that evening unfolded like a scene from a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Every word and movement etched into my memory as the culmination of weeks of suspicion and fear. It started, innocently enough, with Victor, still David in that moment, arriving home with the Thai food, his smile too wide, too rehearsed, as he set the bags on the table and plated our favorites like it was any other night. The aroma of lemongrass and coconut filled the kitchen, clashing with the knot in my stomach, but I forced myself to eat, picking at the noodles while stealing glances at his face, searching for cracks in the facade. He chatted lightly about his day at work, fabricating details about non-existent colleagues, but his eyes kept flicking to his watch, as if counting down to something inevitable. The hidden mic itched against my skin, a reminder of the trap we'd set, Parker's team listening in real time, ready to pounce. Silence stretched between us, broken only by the clink of forks until I couldn't hold back anymore. "David," I said, setting down my utensil with deliberate calm, my heart thundering. "I need to ask you something." He looked up, expression mild, but I saw the subtle tension in his jaw. "Of course, sweetheart. What is it?" I drew a breath, the words rehearsed but tasting like ash. "I know about the sleeping pills." His fork halted, suspended in air, and for a split second, the mask slipped, his eyes narrowed, a flash of something predatory crossing his features before he schooled them back to concern. "I don't know what you mean," he replied carefully, voice even. "The bitter taste in my tea," I pressed, leaning forward. "The way I've been sleeping so deeply, I know you've been drugging me." He set the fork down slowly, studying me like a puzzle he needed to solve. Sarah, you've been under a lot of stress lately. Maybe you should see a doctor about that. I already have proof, I countered, pulling out my phone and cueing the recording, though I didn't play it yet. Parker had advised drawing him out verbally first. I recorded you going through my things while I was unconscious. This time, the change was complete. The loving husband vanished, replaced by a stranger with hardened eyes and a sneer curling his lips. His voice dropped, the accent bleeding through fully now, rough and foreign. You recorded me? He stood slowly, chair scraping against the tile towering over the table. I know about the fake passports, David. I know about Jennifer Walsh and the other women. I know you're planning to kill me on Thursday. The air thickened with menace as he clenched his fists, veins bulging in his neck. You have no idea what you're dealing with, Sarah. Then tell me, I challenged, my voice trembling but holding, the mic capturing every nuance. Tell me who you really are. He laughed then, a hollow, mirthless sound that echoed off the walls, sending chills racing across my skin. You want to know who I am? I'm someone who's very good at what I do. And what I do is take everything from women like you. Your money, your identity, your life, and then I disappear. The confession spilled out, fueled by arrogance or perhaps the belief that I wouldn't live to repeat it. How many women have you killed? I asked, pushing as Parker had instructed, buying time for the team to position. Enough, he said coldly, stepping around the table toward me. And you were going to be the last one. I was planning to retire after this job, but now... He trailed off, his hand dipping into his pocket, fingers closing around something concealed. Now I'm going to have to improvise. That's when Detective Parker's voice crackled through the hidden speakers, amplified and commanding, filling the room like judgment from above. David Mitchell, or whoever you really are, this is the Portland Police Department. The house is surrounded. Step away from Sarah and put your hands where we can see them. Victor whirled, confusion etching his face as he scanned for the source, his hand frozen in his pocket. You set me up, he snarled at me, pure venom in his tone. I protected myself, I shot back, rising from my chair, emboldened by the approaching sirens wailing faintly outside. Something you never gave Jennifer Walsh or the others a chance to do. The door burst open then, Parker leading the charge with officers in tactical gear, weapons raised, shouting commands that overlapped in a cacophony of authority. Victor bolted toward the back door, but Martinez cut him off, a wall of resolve. He spun, aiming for the stairs, but Parker tackled him mid-stride, the two crashing to the floor in a grunt of impact. Let me go, Victor roared, thrashing as cuffs snapped on, his real accent raw and desperate. You don't understand what you're dealing with. We understand perfectly, Parker grunted, hauling him up. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, identity theft, fraud, and we'll add more once we dig into your victims. As they dragged him out, Victor twisted for one last glare at me, his words a hissed promise. This isn't over, Sarah. People like me, we have friends, we have resources. You'll never be safe. But Parker's grip tightened. Yes, she will. Because people like you always make the same mistake. You think you're smarter than everyone else, but you're not. You're just a criminal, and criminals get caught. The aftermath rushed in, Emma hugging me fiercely, paramedics checking for shock, the house alive with flashing lights and radios. Victor's threats lingered, but in that moment, surrounded by allies, I felt the first stirrings of victory. The trial dragged on for 8 grueling months, a relentless parade of evidence and testimonies that forced me to relive every moment of betrayal in a sterile courtroom. But it also marked the beginning of my journey toward reclaiming the fragments of my shattered life. Victor, stripped of his aliases and facing the glare of justice, tried to paint himself as a mere con artist, denying the murders with a slick lawyer spinning tales of coincidence and misfortune. But the proof was overwhelming. The metal box's contents laid bare on exhibit tables, my recordings played for a hushed jury, FBI experts detailing the poison's match to victims' autopsies. Jennifer Walsh's family testified through tears, her sister's voice cracking as she described the empty home and vanished savings. Lisa Chen's brother shared bank records showing transfers to Victor's accounts. Maria Rodriguez's orphan child, now in a loving adoptive home, became a silent symbol of his cruelty. Amanda Foster's case, once ruled accidental, was reopened with new forensics linking the overdose to his methods. Even the two earlier victims, long cold cases, found closure through DNA ties to items in his trove. I took the stand midway through, my hands steady on the rail despite the knot in my gut, recounting the bitter tea, the hidden box, the chilling confession. Victor's eyes bored into me from the defense table, but I met them without flinching, my voice clear as I described the man who'd stolen 6 years of my trust. The prosecution hammered home his pattern, targeting ambitious women, weaving into their lives like a parasite, then discarding them for profit. Defense arguments crumbled under cross-examination, Victor's composure cracking when confronted with encrypted emails to accomplices, planning my cleanup and the next mark in Portland. The verdict came on a rainy afternoon, guilty on all counts: multiple murders, fraud, identity theft. Life without parole, the judge intoned as Victor was led away in chains, his final glare a hollow echo of past threats. 6 months later, I left Portland behind, the house on Maple Street sold to strangers who'd never know its secrets. Emma helped pack, our road trip down the coast, a balm of scenic stops and shared memories, the ocean's roar washing away some of the pain. San Diego welcomed me with sun-drenched days and anonymous crowds, a fresh start in a condo overlooking the bay. Therapy became my anchor, twice weekly sessions unpacking the trauma, the what-ifs, the guilt of not seeing sooner. Nightmares plagued me for 2 years, Victor's cold smile haunting my sleep, but gradually they faded, replaced by dreams of empowerment. Tea? I avoided it for 3 years, opting for water or juice, the mere scent triggering unease. Dating took 4 years, a cautious step with a kind teacher named Mark, built on honesty and slow trust. But survival wasn't enough. I channeled the ordeal into purpose, joining the FBI's Victim Services Division as a consultant. I shared my story at conferences, support groups, workshops, detailing red flags like unusual routines, privacy invasions, the charm that masked calculation. My insights helped catch 3 more scammers using Victor's playbook, one in Chicago, mid-con, another in Miami, assets frozen before flight, a third in New York, his wife alerted in time. Families thanked me with hugs and letters, their gratitude a salve for my scars. Emma visited often, our friendship deepened by the fire we'd walked through, her own life enriched by the advocacy we'd sparked together. Reflecting now, people ask if I regret marrying Victor, if I'd erase those years. It's complicated. The pain and fear, yes, but not the growth. He thought he'd break me, but instead he forged a stronger version, aware, resilient, dedicated to protecting others. Victor rots in a concrete cell, his resources severed by international arrests, while I live freely, watching sunsets over the Pacific, helping women rebuild. This story ended with those handcuffs, but mine continues, a testament to survival's quiet power. In the quiet aftermath of it all, as the waves lapped gently against the shore outside my window in San Diego, I found myself breathing a little easier each day. The sharp edges of memory softening like sea glass tumbled by time. The sunsets here painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, a daily reminder that beauty persists even after storms. And I would sit on my balcony with a simple glass of water, letting the warmth seep into my bones, reassuring myself that the shadows of the past could no longer dictate my light. Emma's visits became cherished rituals, our conversations drifting from the weight of what we'd endured to lighter dreams of travel and new beginnings, her laughter a soothing melody that echoed the resilience we'd both discovered within. Through therapy's patient unraveling, I learned to extend grace to the woman I'd been, trusting, open-hearted, and to celebrate the one I'd become, with scars that told a story of strength rather than defeat. Working with the FBI, guiding other survivors through their fog of doubt, brought a profound sense of peace, each shared experience weaving a tapestry of hope that bound us together, proving that no one heals alone. As years passed, the nightmares receded like retreating tides, leaving space for joy. A tentative romance, walks along the beach where the sand whispered secrets of renewal, and quiet evenings where I could finally close my eyes without fear. Victor's threats, once looming like dark clouds, dissolved into irrelevance, his world confined while mine expanded, filled with purpose and connection. And in those still moments, as the stars emerged one by one in the velvet sky, I whispered to myself, and to anyone who might need to hear, that survival isn't just enduring, it's blooming anew, gently, irrevocably, into a life reclaimed.